waterway. There is no other place that Reanne likes most than pumping along the coastal track. It was filled with beaches, boats, and harbors, and she likes passing by. Sometimes she could see engines pass by pulling fish trains, like Henry with the flying kipper, and Salty, who was shunting the trucks of fish at the docks. Once long ago, Reanne was feeling very upset. The beach was filled with garbage, and people have been littering all over. That is why Sir Topham had placed a no littering sign for people to not polluting the sea, polluting the beaches. That is why Reanne never likes the beach getting dirty with garbage. One afternoon, Reanne was pulling a fast goods train when all of a sudden she coughed. Salty was there. "Arr! Look at you, Reanne! It's time that you need an overhaul!"
"Nonsense!"
Reanne called.
"I'm as good as the Phil, and besides, this goods train to Alsmer can't wait."
Reanne puffed on her way. She knew Salty was only joking. At Alsmer Harbor, the man took longer unloading the train. The ship needs an extra shipment of stone to the harbor. What was that? Reanne sighed and closed her eyes, enjoying the fresh sea air and the sound of the gulls. All of a sudden, Reanne's driver blew her whistle loudly. "Wake up, you sleepyhead! Time to go!"
Ugh!
Reanne groaned.
You could at least give me a 3-hour warning."
Reanne puffed on her way. But as she puffed on, she suddenly coughed violently. And as she did, sparks flew from her funnel and landed on the gravel near the line.
"Oh well,
Reanne sighed.
I'll have the workman and check it on the way."
As soon as Reanne left, the harbor master came up with some frightening news. "We've got a report from the Coast Guard. A tsunami is on its way. All boats need to be evacuated." Cranky was nearby. "I don't like to get washed away from the sea," Cranky called. So some workmen tied Cranky down with some tight ropes. And all the boats set and float away onto a safer ground. As people made it to higher ground, the water suddenly went backwards and forward. A few hours later, Edward was puffing by. All of a sudden, she came to a stop and gasped. "Oh no! Tide away!" Edward dashed bravely by and made his way to Wellsworth. The driver explained to the signalman for what happened, and quickly he phoned ahead. And as he did, Edward puffed on to warn the others. Reanne and the other engines were still asleep when all of a sudden a shrill whistle woke them up as Edward puffed in.
"What's gotten into you?"
snapped Gordon.
You know it's not safe for you to be running around this hour of the day, the night or day."
"Especially when your age," teased James. "Never mind about that," Edward called, catching his breath.
A tsunami is approaching on the beaches.
All the engines were horrified, including Toby and Duck. We'll need your help on the breakdown crane. We'll need your help with the breakdown crane, Rayanne.
Yes, of course.
Rayanne called. She was soon following Edward with Chris, the crane. Slowly and carefully, they set off towards the harbor. Chris was a little worried, but he likes to help out. As Edward and Reanne made their way onto the harbor, they stopped, and then Lizzie, the forklift, came by. She warned all the engines not to pass.
It could be dangerous.
As soon as Lizzie stand clear, Harold zoomed up ahead. Don't worry, chaps. We'll make sure that no damage will be limited. Edward and Rayanne bravely watched the helicopter disappear. They could see the situation going out of control. Eventually, the workmen set up a wall in front of the sea to make sure that nothing could wash away. They used sandbags, wood, and a bunch of other things to stop a flood. What do you suppose tsunamis can do? Asked Edward. Rayanne looked sadly, and then said in a very frightening words,
If it's not stopped, everything will be washed away.
Rayanne was horrified. She didn't speak a word, and she watched sadly as all the work could be reduced. Edward stayed with Rayanne and made sure that she doesn't grow very frightened. And then, at last, the tsunami had ended. When Rayanne brought Chris the crane to investigate, she tried not to look at the devastation, but she couldn't help it. So, boats have been washed off the sea and were stranded on the land. Even poor Tencents, OJ, and Bulstrode felt uncomfortable being out on land. A small tear came into Rand's eye as she realized how horrible tsunamis could do. Fortunately, no one had been injured during the tsunami. All the people were safe, and so were all the dolls. Workmen had to work extra hard, fixing up the boats, and bringing everything back to good use. It took a very long time. Engines, vehicles, and boats worked extra hard, clearing away the wreckage and hauling them away. Days later, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Rayanne. Rayanne spoke first.
I'm frightened at tsunamis, sir. I just don't like this. And I'm really frightened. I just don't want everything to be washed away.
Calm yourself, Rayanne, said Sir Topham Hatt. I realize that tsunamis are bad, but I have a weather report that there's not going to be any more tsunamis coming here today, or forever. Rayanne said nothing. She kept thinking. She was still a little sad. Later at Ellesmere Harbor, Rand stayed with Edward and Mavis to work and to clear the mess. All she could see that nothing had been washed away. She was still a little bit frightened. Just then, Thomas popped in with a cheerful look. He was about to pick up the first load of wreckage and then hauling them away. He noticed Reanne looking very sad. "You mustn't worry about a thing, Reanne," Thomas said. "Nothing bad will happen again. And besides, things are already stayed the way it were." Reanne smiled. She knew Thomas was right. And for the first time, she didn't worry about everything. But little Reanne had learned that nothing bad can happen when there's a terrible storm or something bad might happen. And people had to learn to be safe because Reanne is no longer afraid.